Stay thirsty, my friend. Stay thirsty. What's up, guys? What's going on?
What's going on?
Welcome to this week's edition of the Aftermath, the late one, the other one, because it used to be Mondays. Now we're on Mondays and Fridays. We got a gentleman all the way from. Can you say? I can't pronounce that word, so you're gonna have to help us here.
Okinawa, Japan.
Okinawa. Nice. And what time is it over there?
11:30 in the morning. So
good
this
morning.
gentleman's got himself some alcoholic refreshment. Other drinks are available.
Yes, I'm sticking to the water for now, but I'm trying to be on a so-called cleansing pilgrimage. I gotta get more shredded, so
there you go.
Exactly. But first of all, welcome, and again, as always, we love Buck fans. Buck fans, that's what it's about. It's that time of the year where normally we'd be making earlier podcasts about the draft in December instead of January. So, it's been the first time in like 4 years since we've had to talk about the playoffs before January. So I'm grateful for that. So whatever happens, it's been a hell of a ride with Brady. If he doesn't come back, we appreciate him. But as usual, business is business. If he leaves, we got to go act accordingly.
Absolutely. So tell us where we can find some of your stuff, what you've been doing lately, old salty.
So I've been a contributor at Bucs Report for quite some time. So if you go to bucsreport.com, you'll find you'll find all of my articles on there, along with the other great contributors that are part of our team. We cover, or I'll cover everything from player analysis, rumors, additions, subtractions to the team, this current coaching search, the Brady situation, anything and everything Buccaneers. I'm a diehard Buccaneers fan from the start, and just being able to be brought on to the Bucs Report team and kind of, not have to pester my wife about the things I say while I'm sitting on the couch watching the game. It's been nice.
Know that feeling. Let's talk about this coaching search. So we'll go around the room a little bit and find out. Give me your top guy, the top dog.
Oh, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first because I've asked the question.
Yep, you are our guest. You go ahead. Give us
number one.
All right. So I very much like somebody who hasn't even been named yet, is probably not even going to get a shot. And that was Antoine Randall L. His name was put out there for a little bit. He had some ties to the Buccaneers early on because he was part of BA's staff. But I don't think he's going to get brought in. At this point in time, though, it's a real gamble. We've brought in some individuals who I could see being coordinators who are very much going to be trying to get after a balanced offense, which is something we've lacked for the past 4 years since Bruce Arians came in, and we went with the high flying, risk it no biscuit, and as it came apart this year and the wheels fell off, all the things that were hiding in the wings came forward. So at this point in time, I'm still working on analysis, and I have an article coming up, but there is some other articles by Olson and some other fellas on the website that cover down on some of the coaching candidates that have been in there.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, we're going to break down a couple of them. I just wanted to get everyone's top guy. AJ? I think I know who this is.
Top guy, honestly, at this point, is still Todd Monken. The reason why I would prefer Todd Monken because he's a familiar face. He was really good with the Bucs with Winston. I just want someone, or if not him, I do want new blood. I want someone outside of the box. I truly think a lot of times the reason why a lot of NFL organizations miss the mark is because they look always into the coaching circle. And I don't care how many years, just because, you can relate to this. All of you both can relate to this. You've coached and you've been around people. years of experience doesn't always mean years of success. You could be years of mediocrity, but that's still experience, but that doesn't mean you're good at what you're doing. We need to get someone in here that is going to not only balance the offense, but I don't mind if we're a pass first team, just as long as we're good at it, because you can set up the run if you are truly dominant in the pass or vice versa. So
I
that's what I want.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and I think you hit on something that is plaguing the NFL. And the thing you hit on there with coaching staffs remaining overly loyal to individuals that they've worked with before and continuing to bring those people in. It's not just something that the Bucs we have to worry about for this hiring issue, but it's also across the NFL. I wish we could find out how many young quarterbacks' futures have gone awry and how many offenses have been sunk because a head coach has brought in someone that they're comfortable with, that they're loyal to, as opposed to doing exactly what you're talking about, which is getting outside the box, finding fresh blood, which you have to do in an ever evolving NFL. I mean, the Tampa 2 defense didn't stick around. It's not near in any form or shape the way it was when it was first implemented with, John Lynch in the backfield and Rondé Barber and Warren Sapp up front. That defensive scheme was dominant, but it doesn't work today. So it changes. And I think
Mhm.
that's a great example of how we have to bring in someone who is young, hungry, has a different view, and is an outside the box thinker, just like you're saying.
Yes, I
Okay,
need.
so I'm the same on this. I go with Todd Monken on this, but mainly because of the familiarity and the success that he's had at Georgia, and he has coached and has been an OC at the NFL level. So you do get that NFL wealth of experience too with him. I'm just going to reel off a couple of names, and I want to just get everyone's reaction. So, of course, Bill O'Brien's off the table. And when you said, Old Salty, about people getting another opportunity after another opportunity, the Carolina Panthers have just picked up a coach that literally failed to do, and he's just got given another job, mainly because he used to play quarterback for them a long, 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 long time
Yeah,
ago. And that's almost like a token hiring in its sense, because it's almost like you're trying to get a money grab and get bums on seats rather than actually go with the best guy.
Mm-hmm.
He really should have taken a step back and reevaluated as an OC. Like we said, we've all turned around and said, well, maybe certain coaches are just better as a coordinator, and they may not be the best thing as a head coach. And there's no shame in that. I always say to people, just because you're not a good head coach doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It just means you're a bad head coach. There's nothing wrong with being the next step down or the quarterback guru, whatever it
Todd
may be.
Bowles.
Todd Bowles is an example where that's kind of really starting to stick. I mean, if he has one more failed year, he's going to be seen as a coordinator. And I'm pretty sure if the Buccaneers potentially could, and I'm talking about the owners here, could drop him back down to DC, they would. But I don't think he's going to take a drop from 8 million to 3 million, which is what he was on, without you're going to have to. You have to cut. You have to get rid of him, and then you have to start completely fresh, which is going to make it even harder for you to re-sign guys. What about Jim Bob Cooter? What's everyone thinking about him? Because I've got him down as my second choice candidate out of the ones that have been knocked around. And Munkin is coming in for interview next week.
thank
That's been
God.
confirmed.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
yeah, yes.
The words that what I need is the major thing I want is inventive. After Byron, I really hope that coaches understand it's okay to take chances. It's okay to experiment. Slick says something that's very I think that's very profound, and this should be an ESPN thing. You are supposed to have fun with the offense. You're supposed to have fun with your defense. You guys know it. With the receiving core we had, we should have been having a ball
Mm-hmm.
coming up with new plays, with new ideas. Again, when
You
you
want
are
your players licking at their lips, going, "I can't wait to get that play out. I can't wait to
yes,
get the play," because they're
you
excited. They want to try it out.
we
There's
had
no scheming for them to be open.
no, we had the weapons to where, again, Slick has said this many times. Keith could have been the chipper. Hell, you could have done so many things. If you want, you could put Rashad White in the slot as a running back for someone he would be able to.
No, now too.
Yes, you could do all those kind of things in the I formation. Fournette as the fullback. Rashad White as the running back. You can confuse the defense, especially if it's on if it's on a short yardage where they're gonna assume it's gonna go to Fournette, and you can play action and roll out and somebody else. So that's what we need here. But let's be honest. Did you guys hear what Bill Parcells said today?
No.
He said that the Bucs need to rebuild, and that means get rid of Bowles. And remember, Bowles used to work with Bill Parcells in the Cowboy days. Now, if that is not enough indication that we have to be real, I don't know if Bowles belongs here. We've already stated he possibly is a dead man walking on his next contract. If I'm the Glazers, you have to take a hard look. If he picks the wrong or OC, or if even looks like he's going to choose that, you got to clean house. Because when Bowles say reload, I kind of go, I can't take him serious. You kind of reloaded the second season by keeping the guys together.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell happened? So I'm not.
We can give him the benefit of the doubt of the fact that his offense didn't achieve what it was expected to achieve. So that's why he's got a pass. And we've got to give a coach at least 2 years at bare minimum. You've got to see what they can do in 2 years, because otherwise you're just pressing the panic button. The only frustrating thing in this is that we were probably a team built to win, to actually make a deep playoff run, and then so forth, because of what we had. But it didn't come into fruition for whatever reason, right? So Jim Bob Cooter's 38 years old, and he's the pass game coordinator for the Jags, and obviously he's worked with a young quarterback. If the Buccaneers are going down the road of kicking the can for a younger quarterback, like a Kyle Trask or whoever they may have the ideas who's going to be under 30, this could be a good kind of guy to kind of develop him. Then we've got Keenan McCardell. He's 53 years old, and he's the Vikings wide receivers coach. I'm not sure how I feel about a wide receivers coach taking the whole of the OC spot, but who knows? There's a reason he's been a wide receivers coach for a very long time, and I don't see that realistically changing for us. I think this is more of if they were to hire him, it's more to get bums on seats, because he used to play for the Bucs.
Yeah, and he won a Super Bowl. But I agree. I had it been like a better receiver, and I'm not here to take nothing away from Keenan, but that's a department that we don't need help in. We already have that receiving core pretty good. We need someone who's going to be able to know how to utilize everybody. And
so I'll offer this counterpoint to that, right?
Right.
Our receiving core is great because Evans and Godwin possess such a large skill set that they can play in any position, be motioned anywhere, and they can play short, intermediate, and deep routes to a T.
Yes.
Keenan Markel, God bless, I can't speak this morning. He can come in and bolster those individuals who are below Evans and Godwin, and maybe bring them, get their potential and their ceiling a little higher. And I also think as a wide receiver, he may possess a better ability to understand how to scheme to get wide receivers open, which is exactly what we were missing. That's not to say that I don't disagree with you on those other aspects, because I do agree with you. I don't know how many wide receiver turned coach turned offensive coordinators have been successful in the NFL. I haven't done the research on it. But I can't imagine that there's many, because the predominant history for offensive coordinators in the NFL has been a quarterback lineage of some sort.
Yes.
So I agree with you, but I'm off of that counterpoint, because maybe as we go back and talk about what we said before about bringing in outside the box thinker, maybe he can do it. But he's got to impress really hard during that interview that he has those capabilities in order to facilitate them even contemplating hiring him.
I agree. He would need to. The biggest thing that we need right now is, again, inventive and adjusting. So if he's the kind of guy where he goes, if this doesn't work, we definitely can do this. Oh, I would welcome Keenan. I definitely. Hey, if he comes down here, I'm definitely going to root for him. I'm going to be like, hey, let's get this going. Again, for all we know, he might be able to help Evans be more fundamentally sound-minded at his position, and the rest of them. I think if he were to be signed, the first person I'd say, if he sticks around, you need to help Scotty Miller, because he's
absolutely.
Just, if Scotty can learn how to get the fundamentals down, he could be a serious number 3 guy.
And Scotty's what's missing out of this offense.
Yes.
He was utilized in the slot a little bit. So was Perriman. But granted, they were fourth, fifth string receivers this year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They are speed guys. Speed guys, their job is to stretch that field and provide for that space that you're supposed to scheme open
Yes.
for people like Godwin, who can get yak, and Evans, who can pull down a pass in a contested environment.
Yes.
We missed that. There was no utilization of those two speedsters. Maybe he could come in and he can do exactly what you're saying, and he can get the best out of Miller. And now we have that complementary wide receiver that we've been missing.
Yes, agreed.
I think if they go with him, they have to nail the quarterbacks coach spot on. Because if they do that, then it like you said, what you're saying now is kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah. You're kind of talking me more around it because I'm like, okay, well, he's going to be more on to the how does the route beat the DB. That's how he's looking at it. Whereas a quarterback's coach is more looking at how am I going to get the best throw available, or how am I scheming? What kind of routes can I use to scheme? It's just a different way of doing it because one's been in the shoes. But I would say one thing, AJ, never discount a player, an ex-player coach, because guess what? Most coaches in the NFL have barely played a down of NFL football. It's generally because the ones that make it, they earn so much money. They don't need to go and work another 70-hour job for 25 grand and then work their way up to a couple of mil. It's just not worth that. It's not worth their time. That's why you usually see it's usually like backup quarterbacks or quarterbacks never quite made it that have like your Byron left, which is Mark Brunell as well, who's in this conversation at some point. The next one I want to go to is and he's probably the bottom of my list at the moment of the interviewees is Clint Kubiak. I'm like, what did you do in Denver?
Nothing.
This just seems like I don't get it. They still had weapons. They got themselves a high-end quarterback to lead it, and you put up 14 touchdowns or something. It was laughable. I honestly don't even know why this conversation is happening of that guy. If I'm brutally honest, I need to see a lot more.
It's him and Cooter. I didn't understand Cooter either. I said, "What the why?" Now we look desperate
because of how well the Jags played down the stretch. They were awful the first half of the season. The second half of the season, they really turned the page. I mean, they won their division, to be fair, and they won it with a better record than ours, with a second-year quarterback. Name me 5 players off the Jags roster.
Also, I can't. But
exactly.
Let's go back to his time at Detroit too, as the offensive coordinator there. That's not impressive.
No,
nothing screams innovative during that time. Lucky you had Matthew Stafford. Nothing seems innovative, and 100% agree with both of you. Like those two picks, those two interviews, that's head scratching.
Yeah, it shows amount of desperation, or as we've speculated before, who is choosing this? Because if this is Bowles, then the Glazers are just saying, well, if this is what you're gonna do, we'll give you this. You said this is what you want, so we'll give this to you. And if that offense is the same, if it's awful, he's gone. It would. The only way I can see him staying around is if the Bucs defense would literally have to be number 1. They would have to be number 1 in rushing and pass defense. They would have to literally emulate a 02 Bucs kind of style in order for him to stay. Because then at that point, Jason Light could say, you know what, I'll be the one to hire someone to help you. Because I honestly
think it'll be both of those that make that decision. I don't think it's just a head coaching decision. I'm sure that, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Arians is involved in that conversation too. As much as he's pouting about it and not happy about it, he probably is involved. He's either not involved at all or he's deeply involved.
I'm mad at Arians. I can't. If I had a conversation,
he's just looking after his guy. That's all he's doing.
That's my point. But we all know this.
You're talking about like kind of a nepotism, kind of like
yes. And it's more than that. It's you have to be real with your friends too. We've all had that buddy where we like you as a person. You know, we can hang out with you, we can do this with you, but when it comes to business, hell no. I wouldn't trust you because that's not your field. And sometimes if you're not, you have to be right because Arians is just as responsible for this debacle because you
Absolutely.
sat back and you allowed your guys to mess up. Not only just Brady. I tell everybody, this is deeper than Brady. This was a team, as we always said, that was we thought that they were going to take off and go win another Super Bowl, and our window closed almost. It was
Absolutely. I mean,
so Arians is either you're going to be the big solution or we'll just pay you to leave. We appreciate your services, but you have to go too because we can't
Absolutely.
deal with that.
And when the offense was sputtering, and going back and looking through some of photos of practice, and reading some reports of practice week in and week out,
Yes.
you knew when he was there because they would mention him being in his golf cart.
Yep.
He wasn't mentioned being there that often. So
No.
while this offense was sputtering, I understand as a coach you're supposed to coach your kids. I coach soccer, right? But I have two younger individuals with me who have not played soccer as long as I have not coached as long as I have. You have to coach them too. Coaches have to coach coaches. Players have to coach players. Where has his coaching been to help, poor Byron this season? And it's been absolutely missing.
It
I
is.
mean, I get where you're saying this, but at some point he needs to stand on his own 2 fucking feet and coach. Two
Uh,
years with
Absolutely.
the guy, 2 years with the
Absolutely.
guy, winning a Super Bowl. He's, I mean, I don't know how the reins were handled. So maybe the Super Bowl season, he had a lot of input in the offense to the point where he was even calling a fair few of the plays, or if he didn't like what was called, he would change it or that kind of thing. And then the second year, he would just change the game plans. And then this year, it's completely hands off. No, we're not in the building, so we don't know those kind of questions. But good point though.
I would say pouring over the stats. If the stats are an indicator, he slowly gained control. You could see from 2019 to this season, there was an increase in short yardage and behind the line of scrimmage pass plays.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there was a equal decrease in deep shots, which tells me he was slowly gaining some momentum on what plays were being called and had more input each year. Because if we went from no risk it to no biscuit and we dropped 6% of our deep shots over a 3-4 year period, and we increased our behind the line of scrimmage, particularly the damn wide receiver screen plays, by this equal amount of 6%, it tells me that he slowly was integrating what he felt the offense should be, and at the same time was getting away from the fundamentals that got us to the Super Bowl and won it in the first place.
Yeah, and he forgot what kind of players he had. You don't have you have the risk it guys. And your star player is a 50-50 jump ball deep threat in Mike Evans. Utilize him. Scotty Miller is a deep guy. Utilize that. Godwin is your mid-range guy. Do that. Auden is an up-and-coming guy that has potential. Byron, when coaches play because make calls because of their egos and because what they think is right, as Slick said, there's no excuse for him. No excuse. And as the Glazers, if this rumor is true, they wanted to get rid of him during the bye week, and Bowles stuck his neck out for him. That's an indication. That's indictment on Bowles. Why would you do that? If you see that he's not going to change his ways, you mean to tell me you can't find anyone else out there for Tom Brady?
Fans everywhere were calling for him to be fired by the bye week, and then they came out with a report that said something along the lines of Todd Bowles felt there was nobody on the offensive staff who could call or run the offense. And if I'm not mistaken, the run game coordinator is a previous offensive coordinator.
Yes.
Under Bruce Arians at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so I understand that they felt like maybe he couldn't take the reins, but at least he has some experience doing it and maybe could have made some changes. To continue to go down the path of failure, there was only one end result that was coming, and that was failure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
I agree with this. And not only that, you've got Clyde Christensen, who's worked with Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. I'm pretty sure he could probably be an OC. There's probably a reason. I'm not sure if he's ever been one, but if I'm brutally honest, because I don't know his record or what have you, where he's been and what he's done, in those individual positions. But I'm pretty sure he could take the reins at that play kind of calling job. I don't think that's.
Yeah, and nobody, and you can only go but up because we were down literally. This is what gets me crazy. Bowles, that's an indictment on your judgment. You mean to tell me you have Brady, Evans, Godwin, Russell Gage, you have all these weapons at your disposal, Fournette and Rashad in the backfield. You mean to tell me somebody else wouldn't know how to utilize them? You mean to tell me someone else isn't as intelligent?
Exactly.
Here's another thing you could think of, just to add to the pot, so to speak, is if you have got a Bruce Arians stirring upstairs like a little hornet, pissed off about everything that's going on, and he sees all the social media, and he's thinking, oh yeah, I might go and change him with Clyde Christensen. I might go and change him with the run game coordinator. And you've got your old mentor, the guy who stepped away from the job for you, going, no, you don't. No, you don't.
Exactly.
And of course, now he's got to save his own job, so he's got to go, you know what? It's you or me. And that's what he's been forced to do, because I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have to. He probably would have kept him. But I think there was enough pressure on him that he had to. And as much as Bruce Arians doesn't like it, the results matter. And does Tom Brady share a portion of blame? Me and you spoke last on Monday where we broke down the blame. Both of us went with big percentages for Byron Leftwich and a percentage for Tom Brady, of course. I got 25. I think you went around 20.
Yes.
Because it wasn't great, but you still have an offensive coordinator who's supposed to work with your quarterback to find out what works for him and what works for your team, instead of just going to the same old shit that we were doing time and time again, where we got routes that only develop after eight yards. We're never going to have success running into a brick wall. Game planning, that game plan against the Steelers was disgusting.
Yeah.
That was a horrible game.
Missing four defensive backs. They were missing their slot, their nickel, starting nickel, starting both corners, and a safety.
Oh yeah, and we didn't attack their weakness.
Yeah, and you know what we did? We thought, maybe the logic was, TJ Watt's out. We'll run the football. I'm guessing him being an edge rusher means he's probably a better pass rusher than he is a run stopper. And I'm not going against him as a run stopper, but generally edge rushers are generally better at pass rushing than they are at run stopping.
But he's a professional offensive coordinator who should have seen all that. And it's
ridiculous. If I know it, you know it, and everyone else fucking knows it.
Millions of dollars
for the mainstream media.
And you run into their strengths. Hayward was dogging Gedeke all game.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, when Brady was throwing passes, they were working. When they every time the Bucs offense was getting the rhythm, they were getting the passing game going, and you don't take advantage of it. This is again this is unacceptable. See, I as a Glazer, I couldn't have been on that. After that, he would have been fired right then and there, because I'm gonna be like, no, we're gonna salvage the rest of this season because we've seen enough. At that point, I had seen enough. I said he's not going to change. And then the Panthers game confirmed, okay, he is who he is.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I remember specifically as I watched the Steelers game that there is a very large lack of understanding on his part of pulling guards and utilizing tight ends to change the side of the line that they're on in order to provide for additional blocking in the scheme in which you're running. And every time he ran left, Kokeft, Brait, Otten, nobody was on that side, but maybe like a third of the plays that ran to the left side of the field. And they needed it with Gedeke in there and the hurt offensive line. And there was no scheme to add the additional run support when you're going to run the ball. If the running game was your go-ahead going in, provide support to it with the additional players that you have. Pull a guard from the right side to the left side. If you're running to the right, pull a guard from the left side to the right side. Motion a tight end to the side that you're going on. Utilize a fullback. He did none of those things.
No, none.
And then, like you went with all those things, which is what's called generally called flow action, where everyone flows to the one side of the ball. And after a while, the linebackers will start to key on that. So what you do is you fake that motion and sell it one way, you're actually going the other way. So everyone bites. And this is what we talk about, the chess match, the game that's played within the game, is you are moving people around to manipulate what you want. When we were talking about chipping, I don't expect a guy to chip out all day, because that's never going to happen in the real game. But what you can do, for the sake of argument, when we had up against the Cowboys and we got Parsons there, me and you both said, AJ, that I would send Leonard Fournette and just deck him just one time, because he's already pissed off and mad as a hornet what happened last time. You may get him to do something unsportsmanlike. It's going to get you down the field. And not only that, he's going to think about Leonard Fournette. And that's what you want, the mental game that was there. But it never happened. And we can talk about the inabilities of Byron Leftwich all day long, but let's talk about his replacement. Dan Pincher also got a interview today, I believe. He's 36 years of age, and he is the quarterback's coach. I feel like I'm doing a dating profile for him. Yeah. And he's the QB coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, which is a pretty decent offense. And we're talking young, which is kind of where we want to go. And the problem is when you have a guy who is as talented as Joe Burrow, is it the Joe Burrow that's making it all happen, or is it a bit of both, or is it? And this is the interesting part, because this could be a slam dunk or a complete miss.
Okay, so this is where I get into, and I don't know if it's Joe Burrow. I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator, but the quarterback's coach there should have some purview as to what's going on. Let's take the last game the Bengals had, for example, with a very large, banged up offensive line. And they schemed around their weakness and allowed Joe Burrow to get and move the pocket and to pass by stepping up into the pocket, depending on the situation, in order to facilitate the air attack. If he brings that type of mentality over, and he understands where his weaknesses lie and his strengths lie, and how to scheme to his strengths and hide his weaknesses, it could very well just be what you just said as a slam dunk.
So I think am I taking you're a bit of a fan of this kind of potential hiring?
I am. So I like so this is kind of like why I like Randall L, and I wish they would bring him in, is give me the young guy who has now sat back and seen what like AJ said, a fun offense looks like. An offense that has an offense that's been schemed correctly to provide their players to get open and using all three levels of the field, as opposed to what we were doing last year, which was we're using the short and barely any of the intermediate, and occasionally we'll go deep. These like Keenan, Randall L, and the quarterbacks coach for the Cincinnati Bengals have all seen these things now. Mm-hmm. Can they bring it over? Does it translate? I couldn't tell you that.
No one knows that until they come here and they do what they do, and that's the kind of gamble you take on the young coach. It worked out for Miami. They took a young coach. I'd never heard of him, to be brutally honest. But then you don't always pay attention to the coordinators that much, because it's not the razzle dazzle unless they're not your team. We all know most of us know our coaching staff, not inside and out, but we know a couple of the names.
Right.
Then it starts to slow down when it comes to other teams. Unless they got a very big name as their offensive coordinator or their defensive coordinator, we tend to kind of forget about them. Yep. And they nailed it. And if you look at the trend around the league, it's offensive coaches. That's the big trend, as you know, as future head coaches. And it's usually, and guys usually been an OC or what have you, and they all seem to come from the same kind of branches or what have you. And it's all to do with the Mike Shanahan tree way back. You got the listeners, you've got they're making, noise for themselves. Then you got the young Shanahan. You got all these offensive coaches that are making noise, and they're all very young. I mean, if the Buccaneers could take a sideways step, and you're never going to get, and this is why a lot of people go, why don't we just go and get an offensive coordinator from that team? And I'm like, okay, how do I put this? We are not going to hire somebody unless you're going to offer him more money, because that's what it's going to come down to, which most offensive coordinators are paid around the same. It's very unusual, unless they're a big name, that you will get them for any more or less.
Yeah.
And secondly, you've got to look at what you're offering them. No quarterback and $50 million over the cap. not exactly a big sale for sale sign. You know what? If I go to Tampa, I'm done. I'm nailing this shit. There's too many question marks for an OC to make that sideways step unless they came from a bad team. And do you want an offensive coordinator from a bad team? No, because chances are they're going to be shit. They might not be, but still. But if you get that young buck who wants to prove himself, who wants to go ahead, who wants to get that career, and we keep seeing these head coaches getting younger and younger every year.
Yes,
these are the kinds of people that you should be looking at. And I'm just going to reel off some other guys that are in, I would say, would be in the conversation. Not necessarily guys I would hire, but just people I've seen a bit of interest from. So we got the ex-quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That would be a joke. This would be an absolute laugh. Mark Bernal, who is the quarterbacks coach for the Lions, who had a very good year as their quarterbacks coach. You know, they really got a lot out of Jared Goff. He looked much better. It feels like they've kind of calmed him down. They've got some pieces around him. He looked much better. I got Tanner Engstrand. He's the pass coordinator of the Lions. There's Matt Nagy. Yes, as an OC, he's a good OC. He's a bad head coach, and I reckon he's going to be one of those OC type guys. He's the quarterbacks coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've done pretty good things, being able to scheme lesser name wide receivers into really being and making Mahomes more, what's the word, aware of the field. Because usually he just went straight to Hill or Kelsey. That's all it was. Hill or Kelsey, Hill or Kelsey, take your pick. Now he's having to scan.
I mean, look at Justin Watson. He's former Buccaneer. What was he, a third-round pick?
Nobody here.
No, I think he was a fifth-round pick.
Fifth-round pick? Yeah, fifth-round pick for the Buccaneers. And he's already toppled all his stats from his 3 years here in one season there in Kansas City. And so I'd say that's probably a viable option as well.
Yeah. I know this we wouldn't get him, but I wish we could. But one, it would be people would be in the seats, but another thing is we can't afford them. I would love to have Peyton Manning as my
hell yes.
No one's getting Peyton. He's getting paid way too much in the broadcasting world.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone's like, Tom Brady will be a great coach, and he probably would be. But the problem is his price tag is going to be too high, and you can't just start. He's going to be the kind of person you have to give him the head coaching job straight away. He's not ready to be a head coach. You have to kind of go through the system to a degree.
Also, there's the degree at which your reputation takes a hit. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Do you want to come in, have a bad season or two, and then everybody start talking? And then your reputation or your legacy, rather, is now got a black eye to it.
Right. No,
I don't think he's going to risk that.
It's quarterback, shit coach. That's what you're going to have on your resume.
Right.
That's what's going to be on your resume.
Right. And the only reason I say that, though, I don't think he would fail because of the talent we have on offense. I tell people this, the Bucs still have a shot to be not Super Bowl contenders just yet, depending on the quarterback we get, but our line is going to be healthy next season. And then if we draft an LT, which we need to do, to me, that's a necessity. We do that. We keep Jensen. I'm sorry. We'll talk about that article, but
we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. And we have the receiving core and the backs with Rashad, who's the future. You have a shot at this. And the reason why I love Peyton, because Peyton knew the game very well, and he could break it down to a level to where the players can think like that too, because that's why him and Marvin and Reggie Wayne and Jeff Saturday had a great chemistry, because they understood the game at another level in which other players couldn't keep up. The let's be real, the Colts' downfall was just Brady and a damn battered defense. They never had a complete team. Their offense was always complete, but their defense was always meh. So,
absolutely. Just talking about Justin Watson, because I pulled his stats up. He got 573 yards for 4 touchdowns. That's phenomenal considering what he was.
In his 3 years in Tampa, I think he only had 4 touchdowns, and I think he had less yards than that.
And not only that, he was a 5th rounder from the 2018 draft.
Yep. Yeah, I knew he was 5th.
And I don't think he played. He was on Kansas City's roster last year, but he didn't play it down, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was. But he's just one of those guys that stepped up when his name was called. And like as you said, um, Mahomes had to realize I can't rely on just Hill and Kelsey all the time. I actually have to read the field. I actually have to know what I'm doing, and that comes from good coaching as well because he has two good. He
It
has
makes
Andy
him a
and
better
Deanna.
quarterback
Yeah.
because no one knows who you're going to go to. The
Yes.
options are all there, and that's what Tom Brady was so good at. Was because there'd be one week he would just target one wide receiver. Well, I wouldn't say one. He always spread the ball around, but there was one who got a bit more of the reps than normal. The
Yes.
next week it would be somebody else, and it kept
Yes.
them guessing because you can't game plan for that because you don't know who it's going to be until they start getting those reps,
That's right.
start getting those catches, and all of a sudden you're like, now we got to cover him. And then once Tom Brady sees that you've bracketed him with the safety, he's like, okay, well there's someone else,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the beauty of it. When you only have a super quick guy who, let's face it, Hill is one of the best wide receivers in football, and then Travis Kelce, the best slot wide receiver in football.
Yes.
See what I did there? See what I did there?
I like it.
I agree. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. He ain't no damn
But let's
man.
go through a couple of these names. We got Joe Brady, quarterbacks coach of Buffalo. He has spent time in he has spent time in he's got interest from the Los Angeles Chargers and the Jets. They want to hire him as their OC. I'm going to do my best to pronounce his name. Kevin Paterno. He's the pass game coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. We've got Brian Johnson, who's the quarterbacks coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now get this. This is the interest. This is the bit of spice that could be interesting.
Okay.
He was also the offensive coordinator for the Florida Gators from 2018 to 2019. He was their quarterbacks coach, and then he was their OC in 2020. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying there's a little layer of spice there. If they really think Kyle Trask is the man, this could be the guy that helps him get on that map. And I'm not saying it will, but you never know.
I hear you. No.
Well, it may not be. It may not be what gets Kyle Trask on the map, but it very well could be an indicator as to Brady's decision.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at it as if he's gone already. I'm not saying that I've given up completely, but I'm at this point where I'm putting myself in a position where I'm ready to act as if he isn't coming back because that's another thing that's pissing me off about this situation. Make up your mind soon. Seriously, we need to start taking action now. Now I'm hoping maybe Brady is saying, depending on who you guys get, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm hoping that they have this conversation, but the way that I feel, I'm sensing that they already know Brady isn't returning. And with that being, if that's the case, we need a quarterback that can be mobile. That's
Agreed.
why the Baker Mayfield thing, as much as I was
I
down,
remember you
Yeah.
saying,
Oh,
especially with Trump
that's
Monkey.
yeah.
actually not a bad thing
It,
because that's what made the Bucs offense sort of, well, not sort of, that they were lethal before Brady. Despite Jameis with his turnovers, Jameis also could move out of the pocket and keep drives alive. With
Absolutely.
Brady, if it wasn't perfect, you knew you were getting off the field.
Oh yeah.
See, Winston could at least give you that guy where, wow, my defense literally got an extra 5 minutes to breathe, or they just got that extra minute that can keep them to get them to make a turnover. We need a mobile quarterback because we have with the receiving weapons that we have, we need to have a quarterback that can keep a drive alive or improvise.
Yep. They need to extend the play.
That's the way of it. It is. They don't have to be athletic, but they just got to be just good enough. Like Mahomes is not athletic like people think he is. His speed is like decent, but he can keep a drive going. He improvises.
He's got he's good speed for a quarterback. That's it.
Yeah, for equipment, yeah, decent. It's decent. Yeah. So at this point, we all, I think we can all agree across the board a left tackle is a necessity. First round, get that
So
left tackle.
I mean, if I'm general manager, I'm looking at my roster, and I'll tell you what, uh, Brady coming back or not, I might give up a few picks to move from 19 to say 11, 10, to be somewhere around or in front of the Titans, who are looking at a left tackle as well. So I
Ooh.
can get one of the top ones and get a starting left tackle. If you have a left tackle who's as good as Tristan is on the right side, um, I'm a firm believer that you build from the trenches out, and an extremely well balanced and very apt offensive line will make a good quarterback above average, and will make an above average be considered in the Hall of Fame category until he's on another team.
Yeah, I agree. I do
Mm-hmm.
agree with you. And I want, yeah, we definitely need to let's get into that article because you stirred up a lot of things. Slick, you got to read it. Wow, you were insisting that the Buccaneers, and I'm just gonna say this little piece, and I'm gonna let you break it down because this is
Okay.
your baby. He insisted that we get rid of Jensen.
Okay. So
Now,
let me clarify.
Is
yeah,
that the one? Is that the article that I was talking about going the case for trading Jensen? Is that yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I looked at it
Okay.
and went, this man's insane.
Ah.
Go
Now
for
I'll say this. I'll say this. Words mean things, right?
it.
of
Mhm.
course.
I specifically state that if I'm the general manager, nothing is off the table, and I'll seriously consider it.
Mhm.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. And if Brady's coming back, I'm definitely not pulling the trigger on it. I'm sure he wants to come back and have Ryan Jensen in there. But the premises is this, right? We're in cap trouble. If Brady's not coming back, if we're not pulling in a veteran quarterback, say, Baker Mayfield to play, if the staff doesn't think that Trask is the answer, I'm taking this year to reset. All right. I'm going to pull all the strings I can to adjust my cap situation for the future. If I have a losing effort, and as long as ownership understands that I'm going to have one, but I'm going to put out the best product I can, and I am probably aiming towards using some of my draft stock next year to move up and get that possible starting quarterback, the trade for Ryan Jensen's absolutely on the table. If I can remove Ryan Jensen's cap hit this year, next year, and the 2 years of dead money that he has, and I can get at least a fourth round pick out of him, my draft capital to be able to get that first that starting quarterback in 2024's draft gets extremely easier. Not only that, but I'm not trading away a player and then having a question mark replacing him. All right. Robert Hainsey came in and played extremely well for a man who was not anticipated to play center. And in fact, I'll throw this out here. During the 2020 season, Hainsey only had, I think it was 22 pressures the entire season. 0 sacks. He gave up 0 sacks. Ryan Jensen, the season prior, gave up 2 sacks and 5 hits, while Hainsey this year only gave up 7 hits on the quarterback. And a lot of people are going to point to, well, let's talk about Brady's release. The speed at which he gets rid of the ball was very much the reason behind Hainsey's success. Not necessarily true. Last season, Brady had a time to release of somewhere around 2.5 seconds. 2022, his time to release was only 3.91 seconds. So 0.11 seconds difference isn't that big of a difference. So to detract from Hainsey's performance using Tom Brady's time to throw is actually irrelevant. So if I'm going to go full rebuild, I need draft capital, I need cap space. And I might just eat it this year. And I will, first off, everybody wants to say, well, what about Smith? Well, hell yeah, if I'm trading Jensen, Smith is already gone. Cut, trade, or not, that man is gone. But I would seriously consider trading Jensen if I'm on a rebuild.
I mean, that's not. I like how you stated your case. There was genuine merit to what you were doing, and I wanted to touch on this as well. I think you nailed it perfectly. What I wanted to get to as well with the Buccaneers and cap out. What people don't realize is by Tom Brady coming back, it's going to extend that cap out even longer. Right now, we've got a few players on these contracts where they've got these voidable years or what have you, where you're paying them an imaginary money, but it counts against the cap. Yes. I'm not even sure how it even works, but it counts against the cap, which is what matters. And the longer you keep re-signing these players that have these type of contracts, unfortunately, Levante David's one of them, you're going to continue that trend of paying them down the line when they're not there. So you could re-sign, and I hate to say this because I love Levante David. He's my favorite player on defense. You could re-sign him for a 1-year deal, but his voidable years will still be there. And guess what? In a couple more years, you've got to pay Devin White. You've got to pay Tristan Wirfs. You've got to pay Antoine Winfield Jr. So the mouths that you've got to feed, or so to speak, are going to start pecking at your cap space, you might have to go, "How we can't because we can't do this or we can't do X, Y, and Z," and that's why sometimes if we're going to do it, maybe a hard reset and just say, "Look, we're going to get what we can out of it," because there are teams that do well that are nowhere not that have more cap space than we do. There are teams out there right now. Now they might have a quarterback on a rookie deal, or what have you. But if you're signing a veteran, they're not signing for more than $2 million a year anyway. They usually don't because they can't afford to. They've got to have done something to gain some money. Baker Mayfield is in no position to bargain for a shit ton of money. He's just not. And I've said before, if you're going to get a veteran guy, make their contract incentive laden because incentives don't count against the cap. But make those incentives, because the Buccaneers got a reputation for incentivizing contracts and fulfilling that.
Yes.
Keep that trend up because
Also,
it's a big thing.
the big thing that really bothered me was the Buccaneers got away from front-loading contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Front-loading contracts are the reason why we were able to bring in players like we brought in Vincent Jackson when we were looking at bolstering the wide receiver core at a much higher price than other people were willing to pay him. And that's because we front-loaded contracts. We were able to retain Mike Evans because we were front-loading contracts.
Yeah.
We got away from front-loading contracts to have a large upfront cap hit when you have cap space to their base salary being very much a non-factor in a cap situation later on down the road, despite the fact that they're performing to the standard which you signed them.
That's right. I look at it like this. You all made a great point. Brady, you come back. There is no BS. There's no bullshit. You come in, put it this way. The Bucs, you bring these guys back, Levante. That it's gonna hit, but it'll be worth it down the line because we're gonna win it all. That means I need a 14-win season. I need and then nothing less than a Super Bowl. Because let's be real, Brady comes back. This is his last go around.
Absolutely.
So if you're gonna do this, that means your draft, your first 3 picks have to be spot on. He has to have a 2020 draft. You would have to get a good LT, a good guy in the trenches that can help Vita Vea. You would need another possibly linebacker if depending on what's going on. Your first 3 picks are really going to determine how things are going to go. And we all know your OC has to be legit. So you bring those guys back. Yes. It will hurt later on down the line, but we better have a historical season where, again, nothing less than 14 wins.
It's Super Bowl or bust.
It's Super Bowl, and what I mean by that, electrifying, we need to have a Bucs offense that's scoring at least 30 to 35 points, like that kind of average a game.
Mm-hmm.
There is no BS. So Slick, you and Old Salty are right. If we're gonna really just cut ties, do it now, save your money. But if you're gonna go all the way in, you better have a hell of a run.
Absolutely. And if they went all in, right? So I have an article on Bucs Report right now on fixing the cap situation.
Yes.
If they want to go all in, there are ways to get this team to about $40 million underneath the cap.
Okay.
It's a lot of finagling and it's a lot of kicking the can down the road.
Yes.
You can only add 4 years of voided years to contracts. There are some players that you can sign and extend. There are some players you can cut. We want to kick longer field goals. Well, Suck Up will save us $3.5 million if we cut him and go for a smaller contract kicker who can kick better. But there's a lot of ways to get there. But just like you just said, AJ, all that money comes due at some point in time. So if you're in a situation where you're going all out and it's Super Bowl or bust, and you're going to kick the proverbial cap space can down the road. Or you just need to just go ahead and cut bait now and start working on getting healthy financially, younger, and trying to get more draft capital to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I agree. And
it goes one of those 2 ways, doesn't it? Either you're Brady, you've got to manipulate everything and try and, because he's going to need a perfect line. There's no shadow about it. He needs a perfect line to perform because we've seen what happens when he doesn't have one.
Exactly.
Wide receiver core is largely intact, bar 1 or 2 players, which you can probably sign people like these caliber players that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Well, that are going to leave. You can sign them for less than you can sign them for about vet minimum anyway. So it's not like you're losing anything there anyway. Realistically, it's where you go with Leonard Fournette. Are you going to continue down the Leonard Fournette? Are you going to continue with Donovan Smith because he counts a lot against the cap? Could you get him to restructure? Could you get him to restructure and say, look, dude, you're either gone or you restructure? There's no two ways about it. But if you restructure, and this is the beauty of restructuring, is you can give them they get a bit more money up front. So you do it to a point where he gains more money, but the cap hit is less. So therefore, you keep him for a little bit long. You keep him for a little bit longer, and it's always nice to have a guy who can back up. Because let's face it, he may be bad, but he'd probably be the best backup in football.
Yes,
Realistically,
Well,
I
he'd
would
still
do
be a
that.
starter on some teams.
Yeah, I
exactly.
agree. Slick, you're right. I'm telling him no. You don't give him a choice. You're restructuring this contract, or you
You're
got to
gone.
go. You're
Yeah,
gone.
I'm trading you a cut and bait if you're not going to play ball.
I'm all in for that. We want him gone anyway. That's one of the beauty of it. It's like we really don't want you here, but you are serviceable for the time being. Now,
So I'll
because you're serviceable, you can take this little you can reconstruct or buy.
so
Bye bye.
I'll
That's
say
that.
this, right? We
Yeah.
gave Smith a pretty decent chunk of change when we re-signed him, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Why did we re-sign him? Because 2021 or because that year that we re-signed him was a contract year, and he
Yep.
Yes.
performed admirably. Well, unfortunately, that year right now looks like an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
It
He
was.
had a full year of like non penalty issues.
Yep.
Didn't need second help from a tight end or a pulling guard in order to facilitate blocking top tier pass rushers. This is a contract year for him. Maybe he plays well again because he thinks he's going to get money again. I don't know, but I am just like you said, sitting down and going, "Hey, restructure, or you're gone."
Or you're
Yeah,
gone. Yes.
I think that's how you got to look. Is you got to look at the smart way of saving money because we've got to look down the future. Like you said, there's no good having like the thing that irks me the most is if Tom Brady does come back, it's going to be incredibly difficult to re-sign Tristan Wirfs. It's going to be incredibly difficult to re-sign all these other boys unless you start putting banging voidable years onto their contract. Which, like you said, you've got to pay the piper eventually.
Well, the good news is
You,
with Tristan Wirfs is he still has his fifth year option left.
Correct.
So we bring Brady back this year. It means there's going to be a large cap hit next year too. We roll with his fifth year option, and then we pay him afterwards. It's
yep.
just that gamble that somebody else is going to want to pay him more.
But I think if he establishes, I think he's the kind of guy where, of course, he's gonna want money. But if you establish the right type of the bond he has, he'll stay. Look at Shaq. Shaq could have easily left and got $100 million deal after that Super Bowl season.
Mike
I,
Evans has been underpaid each time he signed a contract.
exactly. These guys, well, one, look at Florida, no state tax.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it evens out. Why go somewhere and get more money? But a lot of it's going to be taken away. Because
Absolutely.
can you imagine playing in New York or LA? Ugh. Like I
That-
would, it's like, damn, I got $100 million contract, but you're eating 40% of that, and then if
exactly.
after I give away to my agents and other taxes and stuff, I'm literally probably left with 30 million or 35 to 40. So it's like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather
Absolutely.
get paid 70 million down here and be able to walk away with 50. So I do think Wirfs, we won't necessarily have to worry about him down the line,
Mm-hmm.
but that still is something to think about. I'm thinking about, like you said, the Antoine Winfields as well. Now that's a
Yes.
guy that doesn't necessarily have to stay. What if he has a breakout defender of the year type of season next season? I think he could.
Yes, I agree.
That's the guy that makes me worried.
Yep.
We're not going to be able to
He,
afford him.
he might just, if the 49ers win this week, he will go to his second Pro Bowl.
Correct.
Yeah, there it is. And he has
He's
he has
dunking it.
he has all the I agree. He has all that's the guy that I'm like, oh shit, we have to really look at him because he's gonna go somewhere and get paid. I'm not saying he's a money guy, but that kind of guy at that position, and if they throw the right money at him, he's gone.
Part
And it's
part of
that,
my building a team philosophy is you have to have a star player at each level of the defense and a star
yes.
player at not a star player necessarily a quarterback, but you need to have a decent offensive line, a star receiver, and a star running back. Maybe not a star running back, but an efficient one. Winfield is that star player at the top of the defense.
Yep.
We lose him when we lose continuity of having a star player at every level. And that is going to be a huge blow to the defense. Unless they replace him, which we know is hard to do,
Yes.
that's a big hit on the future of this franchise.
Yes. So you guys are this is real. And this might be a situation where the Glazers are thinking about this. They might sit back and be saying, damn, Brady, like if you're gonna come in here, we need historical shit. If we're
Absolutely.
putting a lot on the line, what do you guys think it would be? Do you think Brady could compromise and restructure his contract?
I mean,
I
he's going to
think
get re-signed anyway. It's just how they work out the voidable years that's on his current contract. I don't know how you. I'm not a cap guru, so I don't know how those guaranteed on. Doesn't matter what contract he signs. He signs a 1 year, freaking such and such deal, and those voidable years stay. I don't know.
so. The way this is going to work, right? He signs a new contract. The current voidable years go away. The issue is that a player knows that that's still money that you owe me, right? I signed a new contract, so if I deserve a raise, you're going to pay me what was in those voidable years plus some. Now, Tom Brady, though, is sitting at 1 year contracts from here on out. This may be his last run. And if I think like I think Brady is thinking, he's never taken the big contract. He knows this is the last shot, maybe. Or there's an extremely high likelihood it is, right? So I take a small if it was me, I'd play for vet minimum, but that's just me. And I would rather go out with the legacy of another Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
But he's going to want to get paid somewhat. So he's definitely not going to be in the $50 million range. You could put him in for 30, a 1 year 30, and you take 15 of that and roll it into a voidable year. Again, that's a $15 million hit on the next season afterwards, which is a huge blow to the cap, especially if the cap is not going to go up as much as Spot Rack is saying it's going to go up.
Right.
So you could offer him a 1 year 30, kind of like we did before, one voidable year because you don't anticipate him coming back. Because it doesn't matter how many voidable years that you have. If you gave him 4 voidable years, all of it comes due the next season.
Right.
What I don't want to do is give him a 1 year, $30 million contract with 4 years of voidable years to extremely minimize the cap now and be completely handcuffed to nothing but second string players and undrafted free agents in the future.
Right. I guess we got to pray he'll say, nah, I'll take 1 year for 20.
Yeah, I wish.
10. That would be a miracle.
We'll see, won't we?
I think reasonably 30's about what we can see.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to be greedy, but he damn sure ain't going to be super cheap either. I agree.
No.
Especially
but then
after
you
he
look,
lost all that
at some
money.
of these other quarterbacks out there that we could end up going down the line of getting.
Yes.
Like a Baker Mayfield. You're probably not going to spend any more than 3.
Yeah.
You're not, but all of Brady's voidable money is due this year.
Yes.
Yep.
So you're spending 3. You're not going to be a big player in free agency because of the voidable years that Brady's now tacked on. And you're going to have a harder time re-signing your own people. If Brady returns, you're looking at, of the estimated 55 million that we're over right now, 20 of that will go away if Brady returns.
So
his return is very much I mean, as the front office, you got a plan A Brady and a plan B non-Brady. Brady doesn't come back, all that money hits. Your ability to be a player in the offseason free agency wise is going to be very difficult.
So in a way, it's like, come back, man, so we can save a little money and have a shot at actually being good, like winning it all. Because we don't. Yeah, we want to win it all. We have to. It's good to win it all and then pay for it later on down the line, because you never know, you might get lucky down the line. I'd rather go out, hey, we won the entire thing. Can you imagine a Super Bowl championship within 2 Super Bowls within 4 years of each other?
That'd be amazing.
Buck fans wouldn't know how to contain themselves.
I mean, I could die a happy fan. I'm all right with that.
Exactly.
But I do like the comments here.
Yeah. Oh, I think the Bucs hired. New offensive and defensive coordinator Todd Bowles should just manage games, but Todd Bowles can put defense together and let defense coordinators call playbook.
I agree to an extent. Here's the deal, though. We know Todd Bowles cannot manage a game. We saw it with New York.
Yes.
I still think he has timeouts in his pocket right now that he's saving for next season.
Yep.
Uh, he can't manage a game. What he needs is someone to come in and advise him to manage the game. That way, he can still maintain some presence over the defense, in my opinion.
I agree.
Game day advisor.
Yes, yes, you and unfortunately, you not unfortunately for you need a Arians S type of personality around him to let him know,
Yes.
no, this is not what it is. It's you need an Arians on defense for him because Slick can already attest to this. Old salty buck, I detest cushion coverage,
Yes.
and not only that, he does it at the worst times. It's like when the offense is finally getting in the rhythm against him, he wants to back up, let them get in the bigger rhythm. I'm like, man, just take him out now.
Or he
So
goes soft too soon.
he goes soft too soon, or then he just gets blitz happy and they pick that shit up real quick. It's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't think Sean Murphy Bunton is gonna threaten anybody, especially against a bigger back. First of all, he blitzes way too bad. So Bowles needs that kind of check. He needs to be checked that way. You can't politely tell him. You have to be very stern and go, hell no, this isn't it, Bowles. Why
We've
do you
seen
have
some.
yeah
Was it the Rams 2 years ago?
yeah that we
Uh,
still haven't forgiven him for, and I don't blame people.
yeah.
If you're gonna jam a Cup, you double him. You jam
Yes.
him and have somebody watch him.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, right? He should have learned that the way we bracketed Kelsey in the Super Bowl the year before. The reason why Patrick Mahomes was not successful for 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter he wasn't successful either, but in 3 quarters his passing numbers were atrocious,
Yes,
is because we bracketed Kelsey.
and we had the safeties back as well to where Hill he couldn't just
Yeah, cover
abuse
two
our
shells and then
corner.
tap on both of those two guys. That's all you needed to do because they were always opposite sides of the field. They were never on the same side, so
Yep.
it was even easier. So you
Yep,
just play cover two shell, where you play cover two man. Levante plays the underneath stuff, and then if he does break free, then you've got the safety to come down on over the top of it. You're Antoine Winfield, who obviously wants a piece of fucking Hill anyway,
exactly,
and
and that
he's
was
going.
another thing.
And then whoever he's going, whether he's in the slot or whether he's on the wide out, it's going to be more Colton Davis, or it's going to be it probably was Jamal Dean in the slot back then, I believe.
As you said,
Oh,
Slick, it's a game of chess.
Mm-hmm.
Hill didn't want to get hit by Winfield either. That's another thing I remember. Winfield was waiting to lay the wood to Hill, and the first game when they was beating us and Antoine hit him, he got pissed. As you said, Slick, he was getting in his head, and
Mm-hmm.
that sign, I can tell you this right now, that broke Hill's spirit. He was pissed.
oh, he was pissed. Can
He
I
could.
address this
There's
question?
nothing he could do about it.
Go for it.
Should Corey Brown should we trade Kyle Trask for Trey Lance and a late draft pick? No, and it's not no on our end. It's no on
Yeah.
the 49ers end.
Yeah.
They're not going to be searching for another quarterback. Brock Purdy right now is playing super efficient. And Kyle Shanahan very much understands that efficiency is the key to his offense. He
Amen.
doesn't need a star quarterback to be able to play what he wants to play, especially after trading for McCaffrey.
Agreed. And now their window is there too. They're in a win it now situation as well because they can't let too many years squander either. I do agree though. Shanahan, that's what makes him a good coach though. He works with what he has. You know what he does? He adjusts and he's inventive. He goes,
Bingo.
oh, he has fun with his team. I guarantee you, Kittles and them and with Debo guys like that, he's like, guys, do your thing. Debo's damn near he's just a running back in a wide receiver's body. Look at how
Debo
yeah,
Debo's like the well, him and McCaffrey, right? They're both
hybrid.
what's the phrase? Hybrids, yeah, and Swiss Army knives. Like you put those two people on the field at the same time, and your ability to cover on the defensive side of the house is really you're hoping to minimize the damage they do.
Yeah, and then they also have the most well-rounded tight end in football in Kittles. So now you have to take in the fact that not only that he can catch as well, but he's a hell of a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like you said, with McCaffrey, and they got the other guy Mitchell, who can be a serviceable guy that can give McCaffrey some air.
Yep.
That's just think about this, guys. Remember the 49ers when they had Alden Smith and Patrick Willis together? Look at
Yes.
them now. They have Fred Warner and that other dude together.
Yep.
That's good. That's good coaching and that's good drafting.
Yes. Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So we've got another one from Corey Brown. It matter Bucs do NFC South wide open again next season, and this is why you could probably get away with a rebuild, because as long as you nail certain things right, you do have an opportunity to go after that title. It's not off the table.
Absolutely.
Whether you're going to go to a Super Bowl is probably diminished, and you might only get there with a 9-8 record, or again a 8-9 record. And I hate the fact that we get put down with that 8-9 record, because we basically took the last game off. Let's face it, we all know that, and I'm 100% in my convictions to say if the Buccaneers continued with Tom Brady and the starters, they would have won that game, in my opinion.
Blown them out.
But unfortunately, that is the tarnish on the record anyway.
So It's too early right now to say that the NFC South is wide open.
Of course, because we don't know what anyone's drafting. We don't know what anyone's picking up. But right now, this split second, it is a very open machine. And the Buccaneers, if they're smart, they could still get after it. They could still make some noise in that division.
Agreed.
No one's going to sign it unless someone goes after Lamar Jackson and he doesn't get tagged by the Ravens.
And I'm not worried about the South anyway. It's not even just that, but let's be real. I'm not. I don't foresee the Falcons or the Panthers or the Aints. I mean the Saints. I'm sorry. I don't see the Saints. I don't see them making any fucking like dynamic drafting right now. And the Saints are in cap hell as well too.
Yes.
And overall, the Bucs still have, I think, a more talented team to recuperate than they do. Agreed. They gotta, like with the Panthers hiring their new coach, they gotta form a new identity now. Now they have to do that. The Falcons have to basically say, okay, is Pitts gonna be the man? Saints, they're on a quarterback identity search too. So the we just need to focus on how good we're gonna get. I'm not worried about the NFC South at this point. We just need to get better for ourselves so we can look better in the long run.
Agreed.
That's just how I look at it.
I agree with you.
And there's no reason, like, even if you were to go down the line and they do hire Todd Monken's probably going to want to get a quarterback that he's either had some work with, which we do, or he's done stuff with, and we believe that is someone he would probably be interested would be a Baker Mayfield. That is kind of in his wheelhouse. So you could see
that this opens a couple doors too, right? So like, let's say they bring him in, we bring in Baker Mayfield. Do we draft Georgia's quarterback later?
It depends on where he goes. If I'm honest, I mean, if he falls in the draft and you can pick him up in the third, and that's where I'm going. The third. It all depends on what the Buccaneers. This is the thing I don't like mock drafts. I hate mock drafts before preseason, before the free agency kicks off, because you mock draft, you're like, oh yeah, we need this, and you're ticking all these boxes, and he's like, oh yeah, great. And then free agency comes and your entire mock draft is a complete waste of fucking time. So don't bother with it. Just wait till after the fucking free agency.
So I'll say this. I'm not high on Georgia's quarterback. I get that he put up numbers, but he's also throwing to first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks. His offensive line is first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks. His running game is first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks. Like, there's just something about him that I can't sit there and put full faith in it that's a guy who can run an NFL offense with the amount of talent that he now has to face.
And you wouldn't be wrong either. And sometimes it's just the name. Look at Mark Sanchez. I tell people this all the time.
Yes.
If Mark Sanchez didn't play for USC, he wouldn't have been as hyped. He just played for a prestigious school, and he still had a decent squad around him. Look at Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart had an abundance of talent around him. I agree. It's not always like that. And my biggest thing is, if you're gonna pick a quarterback, he better be the next starter after Brady or whoever.
Absolutely, it has to be.
Because if we give up on Trask at this point, that was a waste pick. That was a waste of a pick. So that's the only thing I'm scared of. Don't waste your picks. value them because
Yeah.
we got Trask what in the second round.
Second
Yes,
rounder.
we got second round.
So what the hell was that for? My thing is, if if we give up on Trask, no, I respect your decision, but if you're gonna get another quarterback, damn it, that better be the guy to go. Okay, Brady. If Brady comes back, you're gonna be his mentor. Mentor him. So then when he leaves, he's gonna be in a better position.
I would
That's
like to
all.
see Trask get a shot, just so we know what we've got.
I do. I
But I
personally, I want to see it. I want to see what he has. I
that way, at
don't.
least I know I'm giving up on something that sucked, as opposed to
Right.
I gave up on Steve Young being traded to
Question
the
mark. Yeah.
49ers.
I don't want to. Yes, I don't want another Steve Young. I don't want that because if Trask goes somewhere and fucks around and becomes like you said a Steve Young, I'll be really upset because I'm a Gators fan. So now, not only that, my heart is broken twice.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Don't do this to me. I seriously can't. Like, I don't want to. It's like, remember when Michael Bennett left and he went to the
Yes.
Seahawks and he was a stud there? He was a stud with us.
Yes.
He just Shiano's dumbass just throws him. I'll never forgive. If I saw Shiano right now, I might
Punch
throw
him in the
something.
face.
No, not might. I will throw something at him and say, "What the hell? You give up this?" And remember, he had like I think 3 solid seasons after he left us.
Yep.
Bucks.
Toes on the line.
Just be sure. Remember, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and not even that. We throw away our treasure, and these guys they become jewels. They become the medallions, and can't do this. Can't do this. So we better make sure. That's why I really think this year's draft, the first 4 picks of the Bucs are essential. The first 3 need to be legit people building down the years. The first 2 need to be starters immediately.
So here's the thing, though, right? We're talking about getting that left tackle. I think it's going to require moving up, which means we're going to lose a second, maybe a third round pick. So not only is this left tackle going to have to start immediately and be a Tristan Wirfs type level player, but those 4th, 5th, 6th round picks are going to have to be people who are above average for their draft position.
They got to be gems. I agree. They have to be gems. I agree. You're on it. This year's draft is important, especially if Brady comes back because he's not going to accept anything less. And
Absolutely.
and why should he? Because we know what we're getting into. We're dealing with a statue quarterback. Let's be real. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not mobile. He's not going to get out of the pocket.
Hell, we didn't even see him take that many 1-yard sneaks like he used to.
No. And
a couple of them that he did do were foiled straight away.
Yes.
No. And that's what we're saying. But that's another thing that we need to also call Brady out on. You can't come in here half-assing either because now when your players can sense that, then why should they go out as well? I'd rather Brady play 9 solid games and we're 9-0 and he gets knocked out for the rest of the season, but he can make it back during the playoffs because we'll still get there than him to play a full season and we're only 10-7 with mediocrity and we go and get embarrassed in the playoffs again. That will piss me off. So Brady, he's gonna have to take some shots because when that's why he gets the ball out so quick. But you take those shots, some of those shots can turn into touchdowns. That's what Josh and Joe does. I know he's not as young, but if that's the case, you need to get out of this game. This is a contact sport. Goat.
You have to hang in there to the last second sometimes to make the spectacular play that's going to change the outcome of a game.
Exactly. Go out on your shield. He will get more respect like that. I guarantee nobody's going to say, "Oh, he shouldn't have did that." No, they're going to be like, "He left it on the field. There's nothing you could say about him." That look. So that all that plays in the look, man. This is literally a chess piece. Right now, we got to get the queen and the rook back.
I agree. Dude, I'm on the same page with you.
So that's all, man. But at this point, anybody got any last takes? Because I'm gonna call it an evening in a second. But any of y'all got any other takes that y'all want to get out?
No, I think we covered like the only other 2 names I've got that could be is the Bobby Slowick, who's the pass game coordinator of the Niners. Obviously, will come from the Shanahan tree, which is not a bad thing. No. And then we've got the old quarterbacks coach Brian Greasy. He's also with the Niners. He's their quarterbacks coach, so a bit older, But Bobby Slowick is only 35 years old. Brian Johnson, who I mentioned, he's 35 years old. Joe Brady of Buffalo, he's 33 years old. He's the youngest of the lot. Dan Pincher, pitcher of Cincinnati, he's 36 years old. So all these guys that have been kind of clubbed around are all in that early, kind of young age. If you're looking for that guy who's going to be a little bit more fresher, I guess, not going to just go to the old bread and butter stuff. These are the kind of guys. You look at the trees that they're hanging around, the quarterbacks that they're working with. Yes, the gamble is it the quarterback? Is it the receiving core? Is it a bit of everything? It's not so much the coaching. It's possible.
Right.
But no one's going to ever slam dunk this every single time. But there are guys out there that are available that we could probably get something out of. It's just selecting the right one. And it's so difficult because I have no idea how the coaches go through these interview processes, because obviously this question they ask, if you've ever interviewed anyone, I've only done it once or twice. If you interview someone can blag an interview, and it's sometimes very difficult because it all depends on the preparation they've had. A good preparation, they can just come out and just wow you with a PowerPoint presentation. You're like, this guy is in on it. And then when it comes to like relating to players, it's not so great and it doesn't work.
I tell you what, Slick, I love that you said that. This is where, because somebody in the comments, Corey Brown says, bring Rondé Barber, defense coordinator, or QB or CB coach. I think that's fucking brilliant. But this is where you get in a scenario, guy, where if we're gonna have this interview, we're gonna have that shit to the fullest. Oh, okay. So you would do this in this situation, get Rondé or some kind of defensive guy in there to go, what happens when they do this? What happens when they do yet? Or better yet, what happens if this player is on this? Because we always say a scheme doesn't mean anything without the players being able to implement it.
Yep. And then the other part of that too is, right, I want to see what you can do in certain or what you think you should do in certain situations. I'm going to measure that against the success that's had in the NFL. But this is my roster currently. Tell me my strengths and weaknesses. Tell me how you're going to utilize my strengths. Tell me what you're going to do to circumvent the weaknesses that people can exploit, especially on the offensive side of the house. But if you can't break down my own roster for me when I do my interview for you, I don't think you've done your homework to come in. That doesn't mean that you'd be a bad hire. But if you want this job, you're going to do the homework before you show up. And you're going to tell me, hey, we have to scheme to get this guy open more. He has hands. We have to scheme to get Godwin in the seam or across the middle. Here's
your diamond in the rough. And they'll be like, who? This guy?
The man gets yak. So how are you going to get him open to exploit that and get him even more? How are you going to use the speedsters? We didn't use them last year.
Amen.
Are you going to stretch the field? Okay. Show me how you would stretch the field.
That's
Show
right.
me how you're going to use movement.
Before they even got down the field.
Damn straight. What are you going to do to get this run game going? What's so different about your scheme? Who do you think you want to bring in? Why did this not work last year? What were they doing wrong?
I think that's a great question. Tell me what we did wrong last year.
Mm-hmm. Tell me how we can fix it.
I think you're spot on with that one, AJ. That's like a perfect question.
Because that's what I look at the same stuff and I look at what other teams done and I'm like, well, they're not much better. So why the hell were they better at it? The only team that I can say they legit had a better line to do that with is the Eagles. That line was just built for running, and all they did is just re-emulate. They emulated what they did to win the Super Bowl with their other quarterback. So yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah, that's good though. That's good, old salty buck. If I'm a Glazers, I hope they're listening to that. That is how you do interview Glazers. That's how you do it.
Why don't they just bring us three in? We'll do it for them.
Yeah, we'll do it for them. We'll grow the fucker.
Yes. But on that note, though, I will catch you guys later. Old salty buck, it was a great privilege talking to you. Thank you. Thank you for breaking things down. And guys, please check his article out. Tell them where they can find you, and because that article does make a lot of sense. If we're gonna rebuild, tell them where they can find you.
Gotcha. I mean, everything's on Bucs Report. Been on Bucs Report for a couple of years now. I've got an article on there on fixing the cap. I've got the heated argument article on trading Jensen, which got everybody up in arms in the comments section on Facebook. I have other articles in there on some player analysis and things like that. I'll be in there week in, week out. It's it's difficult for me at times. I'm behind we'll call it the media time frame, right? So you
I know
guys
Hmm.
that
get the
feeling.
media as it comes up, and I have to read it at the end of the night, or at the beginning of my morning.
Yeah.
So I play catch up a lot. So
Hmm.
yeah.
It's not
Yes, sir.
impossible for me, but it's not far off. I mean, I think the news starts hitting around about 6 p.m. for me, and so I can catch up. I work nights anyway, so anything
Oh,
dings up, I can
perfect.
have a look at it. But yeah, that's how I knew about some of these interviews. So the interview's been scheduled for Todd Monken. It will be next week, and then they just finished with Pitcher and Shea. I'm not too sure how you pronounce his name. The Giants quarterbacks coach,
Hmm.
Yeah,
Thierry.
yeah.
That's
Which
about
I'm
my
not.
best attempt at that.
Yeah, I was okay with that one too. Because
Yeah.
look at what he's done with Daniel. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's why you want to look someone who's been able to do a lot with not a lot, because
yep. So
this is why everyone's scared to select an Alabama quarterback, because you really don't know, because
Hmm.
5 star, mostly 5 to 4 star recruits is your offensive line, a 5 star running back, a 5 star wide receiving core. You're set up for success, and then you've also got a 5 star defense who will get the ball back for you if you ever make a mistake. So you're not
exactly.
really you're not really struggling, are you, until you get to the NFL, where everyone kind of levels out a little bit more, and you might be on a team that's not as good. And that's why it's really difficult to kind of. That's why no one likes picking the quarterback is one of the most difficult things. It's like you could almost call it a gamble, but it's not. It's not, but it's so precise to get that science right in it. Some people have hit on it, like hitting on Burrow. I didn't think he was going to be that good in the NFL, if I'm brutally honest. He wasn't that great wherever else he went. And he's only been to powerhouse schools. So, again, you just don't know. Jalen Hurts, it took him a bit more time. Now he's starting to look a lot better than expected. It's all these things. I was like the small school, the tier one schools that are on the bottom cusp of their division or what have you, that climb the ladder a little bit. Those are the kind of ones like your Oregons, like your Texas Techs, probably your TCUs, those kind of teams where they have somebody kind of really going against the grain, because they don't have the best of everything, and they're giant slaying, so to speak.
Right. I got you. Well, on that note,
Go on,
fellas.
AJ. We'll let
Yep.
you get out as
Yep.
well.
I'm gonna get up out of here. You can always find me at It's About Bucking Time on YouTube. Flex Luthor underscore 813 on TikTok and uh Instagram, and then also I have merchandise. You can always look at it. I got a lot of workout gear, hoodies, cups, gym bags, just regular fashion outfits. You turn up in style. So you can
Turn
check
up
that
in
out at my link.
style.
You can always check that link out at my Instagram as well. But on that note, fellas, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time, Old Salty.
Hey, hopefully I can be back on. And hey, if for those who are watching and in here, uh, I'm not on here. Well, I mean, this is the first time I've been on in what 3 years. So yeah, get on that YouTube page because there's some awesome discussions that go on there and some insightful discussions, things that you don't think about. You guys should dial into that hit the subscribe button on that YouTube page because AJ's in there talking about some things that will get your eyebrows raised and will get you excited about Buccaneers.
Yes, sir. And on that note, everybody, go Bucks.
Go Bucks!
Terrible fun.
Oh yeah.
See you again. So then there was two, and I'm going to have to shoot out as well. But we'll definitely have to have you on the show again. I loved your article, and I love the way you eloquently put your case, because it's not like you weren't hating on the player at all. You were looking at it from a money point of view, which is why Buccaneers have to face the facts. When it comes to the cap, you either manipulate it and it hits you down the line, which we're now starting to pay the price for it, and now we have to do a hard reset.
Yeah.
And it's people like Jensen and other players that could be that will be in that conversation too. There will be some cuts that have to be made. Really got to evaluate the talent. Is this guy really going to bring anything? Like a Cameron Brate, who said he feels like he's done here because, let's face it, he's being paid a lot of money, and not a heck of a lot of money. It's not like mega cap saving money, but they could get a veteran to do the same job realistically,
Yes.
that for that minimum. And I think that's where he realizes, yeah, my time is done. They could go find someone to do the same job as me, but you never know. We could end up releasing him and then re-signing him if no one was that interesting, because not like he's been playing out of his skin in the past few years. Whether the Buccaneers want him back, but maybe for a vet minimum contract, that's more team friendly, or a restructure. Who knows? We'll see what happens. So yeah, I'll let you get out of here, mate. Much appreciated for coming on, and you're more than welcome. Just let us know your timetables. You're more than welcome to come on the Aftermath. We do Mondays and we do Fridays, so you let us know when you're available. See, it's Saturday morning for you, so I assume you work Monday to Friday.
Monday through Friday, most of the time. Sometimes
that's why today was good for you.
Yeah,
awesome, Max. Much appreciated for coming on, and I will catch you soon.
All right, thank you, brother.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Okay, guys, that's the end of the show, and I'm going to go with one last comment here. NFL Edition, our friends of NFL Edition, part of the Bucs Report. Be careful with Jensen. You will not find a T, I'm guessing a tackle, at the cost you think, and not a good draft spot to replace him. Absolutely, but you can move up in the draft. You can move pieces around. This is all about his piece is all about trying to get under the cap. I mean, I'm not saying get rid of him. It's just an option. Everyone has an opinion. Doesn't mean it's not. But you're absolutely right. It could hurt us down the line. We don't know. We don't know what the future holds. NFL Edition always pumping out the good content on Thursday night, so go check them out. I'm not too sure their time. I think they usually start pretty late. They used to start. I get. It's the center position. But yes. Check those guys out. I don't know what time they start up. They used to be about 11, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Check their stuff out. They go through everything, and I mean everything, and it's a late show. I mean, those guys don't stop. So there you go, 9 p.m. Eastern now. I'm sure it used to be later than that. But anyway, much appreciated, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure, never a chore. And 1, 2, 3, Bucs on me, Bucs on 3. 1, 2, 3, go Bucs!